Whenever you get something you don't know, you have to get the orientation, right? So the orientation from the outside is apex and base. Easy, right? Apex is what? Pointy. Let's just keep it simple. Pointy. Base is the top flat area where all the vessels come out. And then, more than likely when this is on test, it'll be opened and will be pinned. So when you open it and pin it, you want to get your orientation this way too, which is what I'm doing right now. Awesome. Okay, I have my orientation. When you go inside the heart, you want to find one chamber that looks very different from all the other chambers. What chamber looks different? Name the chamber that's different from all the other chambers. Left ventricle. Where would the left ventricle be if it's opened up like this? Be over here. How do you know that this is the left ventricle? Is it thick what layer? What layer is this? Myocardium, very good. Let's review the layers while we're here. What's on the outside here? Epicardium. And you can actually see the innermost layer, hey, right here, white area. What would that be called? No?
Endocardium.
Endocardium, very good. So, my list lady, what's on the list?
Left ventricle,
Left ventricle. What do you look for when you look for the left ventricle?
the thick wall.
Thickest wall. What's next?
Right ventricle.
Right ventricle. I would use the left ventricle as a guide and then say, left ventricle, okay, I can eliminate that. So the other big one would be on the opposite side would be called what? Right ventricle. Right ventricle, the ventricles, I'm going to look for these papillary muscles. I'm going to look for the chordae tendineae. So they're all stuck down on the ventricle side. So to double check which side you have, you want to look for the papillary muscle and the chordae tendineae. What's next?
Left atria.
Left atria. So would I be looking on this side with my right hand or this side with my left hand for the left
With your right.
atrium? Right. I want to be on this side. So for me, I will look around and what I'm doing to find the left atria is I'm following the chordae tendineae up to the valve. What's the valve name? On the left side? Mitral or
Bicuspid.
bicuspid. So I'm going in there, and then up on the other side would have to be my atria. Opened up this side, atria, right here. On the other side, did I splash you? I apologize, but you're very close. On the other side of the bicuspid valve. So thick wall, bicuspid, left atria. You notice the wall is a bit smoother. I don't have the chordae tendineae. It is smaller, and it is, you still have some ridges there. What are the ridges up here called? Starts with a P?
Papillary. No.
No.
Pectinate.
Pectinate. Very good. What's next on the list?
Right atria.
It would be the right. So that'd be on the other side. I'd do the same thing. I'd find my ventricle, find my valve, go up on the other side of the valve, and I have the the atria. Atrium, right atrium. What's next?
Auricle.
Auricle. These have good auricles. Auricles, remember, are just flaps on the outside. Here is a very good auricle. This is an auricle on the left side because we said this side was left. So this is an auricle on the left. Auricle on the right side looks like it's been cut off mostly. And let me show you the auricle on the left side. So coming from the atrium, there's usually a little hole, and then from the hole, you would open up to another pouch. This pouch would be in the auricle. So the auricle is just like an attachment on the outside of the atrium. And so this attachment right here, you can kind of see it's flappy. It's like something that just attaches to the atrium right here. And there's usually a hole that goes up into this space.
Superior and inferior vena cava.
Superior and inferior vena cava, I look for the chamber. What chamber do those two go into? Right atrium. So where's my right atrium?
Here.
Over here. So in this area, I'm looking for vessels that go in and vessels that go out. And it looks like it's been cut off too close. I believe this would be a superior vena cava, but it's cut too close. Maybe this is superior, maybe this is inferior. because superior and inferior vena cava actually form a straight line. You could put a rod straight through, and it goes straight through like this. This is the closest thing I can see. It's not very good. And just to double check, I don't see any other good candidates. Next on the list.
Pulmonary arteries.
Pulmonary arteries, where do they go to? Or where do they leave? Arteries, where do they leave from?
The lungs.
Pulmonary arteries go away from the heart. What chamber from the heart do they leave? Which ventricle? Right ventricle. So I'm looking at the right ventricle. And on the right ventricle, I'm looking for some holes. Got it. So the big hole has to do with the atrioventricular valve down there. Well, if you look down here, you see the pulmonary semilunar valve right down here. Right down here. So I'll open it up. And it's really tight. But that right there, between my fingers, my glove fingers, are the pulmonary semilunar valve. How do I know this is pulmonary semilunar valve? What chamber is it coming out of?
The right.
The right ventricle. So remember, whenever I'm getting orientation, I have to see left ventricle, right ventricle. So it's coming out of the right ventricle. It's small. It looks like semilunar. So this right by my fingers is the pulmonary semilunar valve. So back to the question, your next statement. Pulmonary semilunar valve leads to a particular vessel. What's the name of this vessel that my thumb is in? Pulmonary trunk, also known as pulmonary artery. Right? Yep. So my thumb's in the pulmonary artery, pulmonary valve right there. What's next on the list?
Pulmonary veins.
Pulmonary veins. Where do they lead to? Left atrium. So you notice with all these vessels, I'm thinking about what chamber it comes in or out of, and that's how I figure out where they are and the relationships. So pulmonary veins, there are 4 of them on a human, and they go into the left atrium. So I need to find my left atrium. Is this my ventricle or atrium here by my thumb?
Atrium.
It's a ventricle. Is it on my left side or right side?
That's a left side.
It's left side. So you notice that the heart, I can tip it around, flip it around. It's not an anatomical position necessarily. So you need to get your orientation. This is very thick, so this is my left ventricle. For me to find the pulmonary veins, I know I need to stay on this left side. I will follow the chordae tendae up to the left atrium. So it's probably on this side, left atrium. So that'll be up here. And then I'm looking for holes coming in to the left atrium. And it's probably over here because these 4 will come in close proximity. And when they cut this out, they probably cut out right at the edge. I think this is one part of a pulmonary vein coming in. So they would all just come in and come into here. So they removed a wall, and that wall contained the pulmonary veins here. What's next?
Aorta.
Aorta. Where does the aorta leave from?
The right atrium.
Nope.
The left.
Left ventricle. So I'm digging around the left ventricle now. I have to see what I'm looking for. It's probably here. I don't see it yet. Ventricle is atrium right here. This is my aorta. I know I'd rather see it from underneath, but I know it because it has a thick muscular wall, it has a thick tunica media, and if you look inside, I will thumb through so that all phones and cameras can see the aortic valve inside. Yeah, I see it too. See the aortic valve? If you go in and go on inside behind 2 of these flaps, you will see a hole to the coronary artery. So if you go on this particular flap, I don't see it. So it's the other 2 flaps. You'll see the openings to the coronary artery. So it's probably on this one. You can almost see one over there. On that one. What's next on the list?
The apex.
Apex, that's our first thing because we need to get our orientation. What's next?
Base.
Our second thing because we have to get our orientation.
And the trabeculae carni.
We already went over that. What are the trabeculae carni?
Ridges.
Ridges. Where do we find these ridges?
In the ventricles.
Ventricles. So these are ridges in the ventricles like this one down here. Just all the umps, the bumps. Anything that doesn't look like finger-like projections that connect to the chordae tendineae. Because actually you don't see a lot of papillary muscle here, but this right there is a papillary muscle. What's next? Probably chordae tendineae. So that's this. What's next?
Pectinate muscle.
Pectinate. Where do we find pectinate?
In the atria.
In the atria. So these are the ridges in the atria. So actually we see some good ones right there. I do get a copy of these, right? Ridges right there. Just on the all right. What's next?
And then the tricuspid valve.
Tricuspid valve. The tricuspid valve is found between what and what?
Between the
Right atrium, right ventricle. Is my right hand or my left hand holding the right side?
your
Right.
left hand.
Left hand is holding the right side. My thumb and forefinger right here is holding the tricuspid. And then in that case, what's this?
Clinical
And that's next on the list, right? Are you able to see it? Bicuspid, tricuspid. And you can tell that by the thickness of the ventricles to tell which side's right, which side's left. Next.
Interventricular septum.
What's a septum?
The wall.
Interventricular means what?
In the middle.
Between what?
Between ventricles.
Between the two ventricles. So this wall where my two index fingers are pushing against is the interventricular septum. What's next?
Endocardium.
We already said is what?
Inside.
Innermost layer. So it's this white, off-white layer right here. What's the purpose of endocardium? Remember, the muscle gets its blood from the outside, not from the inside. I don't want blood that's in here to seep through to the muscle. I want it to stay in here, and I want it to get out into the aorta. They actually measure this. Doctors actually measure the efficiency of the heart by a term called ejection fraction. How much of the blood can the heart push out with each heartbeat? So they want to keep the blood inside. So we have a connective tissue layer here. That's the endocardium. What's next?
Epicardium.
That's where?
Outside.
Outside.
And the myocardium.
Is what?
The
Inner.
Muscle.
The capillary muscles.
Where do we find those? What chamber?
So, ventricle.
Ventricles. Actually, here's some good trabeculae carni, the ridges here. And then, if you go closer, like maybe right, whoops, I'm flinging that stuff to people. Right by my thumb is a papillary muscle. It's at the very bottom of the chordae tendineae, and that's how you recognize it. It's kind of a finger that kind of sticks out, but because this is not alive, all you see is the connection between the chordae tendineae and the wall.
Pulmonary semilunar valve.
Pulmonary semilunar valve would be between what and what? Right ventricle. And the right ventricle, so which side is which? This is my left. This is my right. Right ventricle and it's named after what? Pulmonary. So actually you could see it, heart's upside down. You can see it right here. I'll rotate it to turn it right side up. So my right hand is now in the pulmonary trunk or pulmonary artery, flipping it around. It's right by my thumbs. And what is this valve called?
Pulmonary semilunar valve.
Pulmonary semilunar valve. And I know it's the pulmonary because this is my right ventricle. It's not as thick as my left, and it leads to the pulmonary artery. Next
Aortic semilunar valve.
would be, I know we couldn't see it from the left side because it was too thick, so you could see it through the opening of the aorta right through here. Any questions on the